We are live. What's up, world? Y'all, don't y'all see me trying to do the intro? What's up, world? It's your boy Tyrone Morgan. I'm here tonight, and we are here with another episode of the Soul Rehab Podcast. Let's go! Woo!
The hype man.
No doubt. You have none other than your host with the most, Mr. Tyrone Morgan. I think I already told y'all that. But beside me, we have we should have gave you a pod name. Cause you can't be the fervent servant because that's Anisha. But we got standing in today, my aggravating sister, Frenchie.
Oh God. This beautiful soul. Yes.
I'll take that.
This beautiful soul. The encourager.
Don't give her no nice name. Let me roll with that. And then on the other side of her, we have none other than the voice of reason, Miss Frances Sutton.
Hey.
Oh my God. I told you.
How you doing?
Whenever we make it, you're going to have to do that same dry hey. It's
Hey.
gonna stay.
Hey, yeah. It worked. It worked.
You told me to be myself.
No doubt. That's what we're going to do.
So I'm going to say hey.
But in her absence, we have the fervent servant, Miss Anisha Dawson. She is actually working tonight, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's working. So we excuse her. She just got to break bread with us when she get back because we had to fill her spot. Nah, I'm just playing. Cause that mean I had to get the money to Frenchie. And that ain't gonna work.
Greasy.
No. Anyway, let's get back to this podcast tonight. We are here talking about something that I think is near and dear, especially to these two hearts. Mine, I don't know. I do all right with that, but it's something that it's really a tough topic. It is something that requires a lot of the people who do this. And tonight we're talking about caregiving. This is a season, and it's been a season of just in the last few years. You seem like there's been a lot of people either getting ill. We've had a lot of death in our area. It seems like every time you turn around, there's one or two people dying, and it seems like they come in bunches. And so this is the on-time topic. Since COVID, we've had people who have experienced this, even if it's short term, it's still caregiving. And so we want to talk about this topic because it's the start of a new year. And just in case you had a long holiday and you have to take care of this, we want to let you know that somebody identifies with your process. So I am going to throw this over to the voice of reason and let her drive, and I'm gonna sit over here and act the fool.
Okay. All right. The serious one, me. All right. So this topic is really truly dear to my heart, caregiving, because I've experienced it much of my life. I think I want to start off by let's just defining what caregiving means to us. What does it mean to be a caregiver?
To me, a caregiver is it can be kind of twofold. A caregiver is just what it says, somebody who gives care. But I think when you go into extended caregiving, it's almost like a career. It's a second job for the person who has to do it. And the one thing that I really know, that I really think about caregiving is the attention to detail when you're dealing with people. And then this one thing, it's like, some of them, it kind of like you take away their dignity. You know what I mean? It's like they can't do for themselves. Then some of them may want to. And I just think caregiving is you have to have a special kind of heart to be a caregiver to help people. So when I hear caregiver, I hear somebody with a big heart, someone who loves people, somebody, especially people who do it for free, somebody who loves people, somebody who is sacrificing. Sacrifice a lot. You give a lot of yourself to take care of other people. So when I hear caregiver, them the first three things that really like pop in my mind.
Okay.
Caregiver when I think about caregiving, I think about help. I think about who that person was, and where they are now, and being what they can't be at that moment, at this time. Everything that they can't be, I become. You know, and to love them, and to understand, empathize,
good word,
and let them know that they're not alone.
Right.
To give hope, and to walk with them through whatever they're dealing with.
Awesome. I agree with all those, and I think Mr. Tyrone, you started jumping ahead to another question that I was going to have, but I'm still going to ask it in a minute.
Okay.
Characteristics of a caregiver.
Right.
But I love the way you said empathy. You most definitely have to have empathy. And again, empathy is different than sympathy.
Yes.
Empathy is just putting yourself in that person's shoes. Sympathy is just feeling sorry for somebody.
Right.
I love the way I believe caregivers they definitely have a big heart. And there are probably more caregivers that are not paid than that are paid. You know, some people have those as a job. You know, they're caregiving or taking care of people that work in nursing homes and different facilities. You could also call them caregivers.
Right.
But I think we're seeing an increasingly amount of people taking care of family members or older parents, or even you could be a caregiver if you're taking care of a child. You know, I like how you put it. A caregiver has a big heart. One thing I think about caregiving all the time is sacrifice. A lot of times, and we'll get to that a little bit later, how we could, as a caregiver, to find a balance.
Right.
That's something that I've always struggled with, and we'll get to that kind of towards the end. But just like for certain jobs, I just believe it takes special people, a special anointed. Even if you're really not walking in the light, I feel like it's a certain gift to have to be a caregiver, because everybody can't be a caregiver.
Right.
So I definitely think it's truly a calling and a gift, whether people acknowledge it or not, to be a caregiver. But the other question that you were jumping ahead of is, what do you think are characteristics of a caregiver? What are some characteristics that a caregiver would have? And what would some characteristics you would not want to see in a caregiver? So let's do both of them, the pros and the cons.
Well, you know, of course, the big heart is which is compassion.
Yes.
I think a caregiver should have a gift of mercy.
Oh my gosh.
I think that is big. If it comes natural to you, you most definitely have a gift of mercy.
Yes.
I think a caregiver should have the characteristic of patience.
Yes.
You have to have a lot of patience, because you got to have empathy, and I think most of the caregiving that I've been around been older people, and they kind of lose themselves, and they don't want to they don't want you to do stuff that they normally did for themselves. So it's a kind of a fight with them, you know, to get them to do stuff, because some of them still have a little bit of pride about themselves. You know, they want to do things for themselves. And then you got the ones that don't want to do nothing for themselves. So then you still got to have that patience, even dealing with them, because in their mind is telling them they can't do nothing for themselves.
Right.
So you got to have that. Some of the things I wouldn't want in a caregiver is selfishness. You cannot be selfish and be a caregiver.
That's
because
right.
You will end up quitting. You will end up not being able to maintain that job for a very long time, because you're selfish. You just worry about what you want. I don't think a caregiver should be mean or easily angered. I don't know what word I want to use for that, but I don't think that should be that, because again, it's patience. You got to have a lot of patience when you're dealing with people. You have to care, like you really have to care for a person when it's done right. I seen my grandma in a we ended up moving her to a home, and I was in my early 20s, and so I got off on Fridays, but one of the grandchildren would have to go on the weekends to give her kids a day off. So I would go Friday because I got off on Friday, and I always schedule my time, so it didn't matter. I was there from probably 3 to maybe 8. So I had time to go home, change, get ready for the club, by the way. Real talk.
Hey, you made it work.
I had mine figured out.
You made it work. That is too funny. That is so funny.
I had mine figured out.
I
They
know
were messing
that's
around.
right.
I had
Okay.
mine.
Always a way around
I
it.
know
You
that's
got it,
right. So you found the balance.
Work it out.
Again, you're jumping ahead.
Well, don't tell you, I had it worked out. But there was a nurse there that, like, you can tell she really cared about the patient. When she was on duty, you didn't have to do a lot because she was there. And so we had got to the point that trusted her so much, we didn't go up there as much when we knew her schedule. You know, because we knew that she would take care of anything that was going on. She would call. So it's really, you got to be a people person. You can't be a hermit and be a caregiver, because you got to be able to deal with family. I don't want. We get ahead of that. I know that's coming, but if you're doing it in a family, you can run into issues with the family that can cause you to have hard feelings on the family, because like you don't get the assistance and the support that you think you should from them, because they're not really, I don't think they're really aware. Because like me, early 20s, going up there sitting in the rest home was like the last thing I wanted to do at that age. But I didn't realize how much sitting up there would just take out of you. Just sitting up, really, I didn't have to do nothing, because we needed something. The nurse would come in, but they were just sitting up there to make sure they were doing what they're supposed to do. So it gave me a new respect for doing it. And I don't think you really understand it until you have to do some of it.
Yes. That's awesome. You have anything to add?
What was the question again?
Okay, what do you think some of the characteristics would be for a caregiver? Pros and cons. What characteristics would you like to see in a caregiver, and what would you definitely not want to see in a caregiver?
Yeah, I think a caregiver should be attentive, patient, absolutely patient, and understanding, and let them know that that you understand. Let them know that it's okay. Impatience, I would not want to see that. Short-tempered. I think you took everything I had to say.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I've had experiences. I've been a caregiver in my personal life, caregiver being paid. I've had experiences where the patient may have disrespected you so bad that you may lose your patience. But I'll give you an example. I remember working, and one of our clients spit in one of the other staff's face.
Wow.
And she had tobacco in her mouth. That's degrading.
Very much. That's tough.
That's hurtful.
It is.
I'm glad I was there because I grabbed her. We need a friend. And I told her to walk it out. Go somewhere. Because if you work for the state, you could go on that registry. And that could prevent you from getting another job. But
hold on. That look. I'm sorry. Didn't even think about turning this off.
It's fine. But I think sometimes, like, if you're dealing with people that are sick, sometimes they could be so mean And we are human being caregivers.
Right.
We have feelings. And I'm not saying that all the time that they can control it, and sometimes they can control it. But is it fair to say that sometimes we cannot be impatient? Is it fair to say that sometimes we can't get upset?
Yes.
Oh, you go. I think in that episode, I would have been completely upset.
So when I think about what I don't want people to do is just be hateful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but I think sometimes it's okay to be upset. It's okay to be impatient. You know, especially a lot of times caregivers have their own job, have their own families, and they're taken care of. So you're tired, you're exhausted.
Yeah.
So, you know, you may snap, but when you snap, make sure you don't slap somebody. You know, I mean, you might
snap and snap back.
I think it's
you know, I don't want to not
humanize.
Yeah, and I don't want to be like I've always been the perfect person, because sometimes I'm like, look, enough is enough.
Yeah,
you know.
and that's
I think
okay
sometimes
to draw
you need to do that.
You
Yeah,
know,
you have to draw borders.
I don't know. I just wanted to know your opinion. So.
Yeah, I think you should have, you know, establish borders.
Oh yeah.
And that's okay, you know. I think you should hold it together the best way you can.
Yes.
At all times. I don't think that it's okay to lose your cool.
Right.
At all. At no time. I think it's okay. Even if you might have everything on your shoulders, it's still not okay for you to snap. You got to hold it together.
Well, I think, like, for example, I've been around somebody who was extremely firm with somebody that was sick, but they had to because of the way they were carrying themselves. Like, when I mean firm, but like very firm with what they said. They meant everything they said. They won't call them out the name or nothing, but they would tell them like, "Look, you're not gonna keep acting like this."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Establish borders.
I'm here
Boundaries.
to help you.
Boundaries.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm here to help you.
Right.
I am
Exactly.
not here to be your punching bag for you to say
Exactly.
whatever you want. I'm here to help you. And if you want me to continue to help you, you're going to sit here and you're going to be quiet.
And that's holding it together.
Yeah.
You're doing that before you snap.
Yeah.
And a lot of sometimes you might have somebody who don't understand that, or don't understand what they're doing, or don't realize, like an Alzheimer's patient.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
not going to talk sense into them.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're just going to have to grin and bear it sometimes. But then sometimes you just got hateful people.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have to draw boundaries
Yeah.
and let them know, look,
Yeah.
no, we're not doing
Yeah,
this.
we're not doing
We're
this.
not doing this.
We're not
No.
doing this.
Mm-mm.
We're not doing
Yeah.
this.
No.
No, doing this.
Because, you know, and then, you know, if you sit there and you think about it, once you get past that point and you start thinking about it, like, you know they mad because they sick. You know what I'm saying? That, you know, it's I can only
Being
imagine
understanding and empathetic.
having a terminal, you know, a disease that you can't go to the mountain. I can go to the bathroom. You can't walk on your own. You know what I'm saying? That's got, because, you know, I've personally seen somebody go through ALS. And just he probably was the happiest person I've ever seen to go through it like that. But, I mean, just to see him, you know, at times he'd be depressed because, you know, he can't move nothing but his head. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that was just crazy. But, you know, me and him were talking. He would just tell me some of the stuff that, you know, he'd be thinking about, and he'd be trying to hold it together, you know. But it's tough once you hear that. You know what I'm saying? You like, sometimes you kind of understand, like, I get it. But then there's sometimes like, look, you need to hush. I need you to get it back together. I know you ill. I know you upset. But we can't do this. And I've seen some of his nurses do that would do that with him. You know, because I hadn't even really thought about how much I was in. I want a primary caregiver, but I was somebody there that was, you know, that would really listen to what he had to say. So I really understand it a lot better than what I thought I did. But anyway.
And I think sometimes when we're caregiving for people, I just thought about this when you were saying that. For a person, I could remember, I how depressed my mother was when she lost her license.
Mm-hmm.
But losing their independence is a form of identity.
Right.
You know, when you lose that's how we identify ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're able to do things. We're able to work. You know, you're able to drive. You're able to dress yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And even with myself, I could look back. When I lost my independence, that wasn't a pretty time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily mean to people, but I'm even conscious now when I don't feel good
Mm-hmm.
to how I treat people.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of times you are short-tempered.
Mm-hmm.
You are snappy.
Yeah.
So I could relate to it in the form of having people care for me and also being a caretaker.
Mm-hmm.
But that sense of losing your independence, things that you have done, oh my God, I could relate to being depressed. Thank God I was only not able to drive for 6 months, but that was the worst 6 months, having to wait for people, depend on people, and it's almost like you put your life in the hands of somebody else. And you know, you're trusting somebody to make decisions for you. And hopefully you have a good person that will make good decisions for you. And while I'm thinking about that, bless the ones that don't have good caretakers, God. It really breaks my heart when I hear stories of people getting beat or abused or, you know, being neglected, and they can't take care of themselves.
Right. Yeah, that's the neglect.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah. So I guess I will move on. I think well, Frenchie, do you want to tell us any of your experiences before I move on to the next question with caregiving? Any of your personal experiences?
Well, I've been a caregiver most of my working career. Started out at house childcare. Started out at house childcare with I guess it's not MR patients anymore.
I don't know what the political correct name is now.
With special children who couldn't do for themselves, and I learned a lot about caregiving, and then I went from there to even as a 911 dispatcher. You know, I had people's lives in my hands when they called in. You know, and then I went from that to dialysis technician. You know, working with people who were on dialysis, and I would, you know, they'd be there 3 times a week, and, you know, I'd care for them and just form a relationship. And so from there, my great grandmother got sick, and she couldn't do for herself, and has always been so strong. She wasn't able to do for herself, and she developed dementia, and so eventually to hospice. And so I wasn't working, and I was taking care of her, and it was the most amazing experience in my life because she wasn't herself. And if you know anything about Alzheimer's and dementia, they just become a totally different person. And they need care, 24-hour care. And so I had to learn patience. It was hard. It definitely was hard. Definitely was stressful. But I learned so much. It was beautiful at the same time. Even in hospice, I think that's the most beautiful experience beautiful thing I've ever experienced. Just me and her in that room, and just being a rock for her, and just seeing her transition. I don't know. It just changed me. So that's one of the biggest experiences I had as a caregiver. I know I kind of
that was
worked it all together, but
that was good.
How many years did you do that with your
Well, it was only
only?
about a little over a year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because she went down fast.
Mm-hmm.
She went down fast. Yeah.
So how did you rest? What was your rest like during that time? Were you able to? I'm sorry. That next question will close.
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll wait for that answer. Stay tuned.
No, because my question was, what toll did it take on your body and mind? That was my question, but that's
good.
First? Yeah.
That's good.
What toll did it take, being a caregiver takes on your mind and body?
It was a lot because I had a little boy. Bryson might have been about five or six. He had also been having seizures in the middle of the night and never knew when they was gonna pop up. So it was so much responsibility. I was what you call it, when you take over her affairs.
Executive estate?
Power of attorney. Yeah.
Medical.
I became power of attorney, had to make the phone calls, and it's like, okay, Lord, this is a lot. How do I do this? And it's like I would wake up in the morning and I said, okay, instead of looking at the entire picture, and I say this even now when I get overwhelmed, I say, I'll take it step by step. Instead of trying to tackle, I'll look at the entire picture, but instead of trying to tackle the whole thing at one time, I take it a little bit. What can I do now? What can I do next?
That's good.
What's next? One thing at a time.
That's good.
And what I have carried with me is, as God gives me strength, I will go. As He gives me strength, I will go. I'll not try to take it all on myself. As He gives me strength, I'll go.
That's good.
That is so good.
So that's how I was able to navigate and keep my sanity.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. You have anything you want to add?
Well, I mean, I ain't necessarily ever been a primary caregiver except for some kids, and I just need to incorporate discipline back into their lives. But that's a whole nother pot. But I mean, I could just remember, my cousin Charmaine, she was a full-time caregiver for probably 8 years. And if he needed his nose scratched, she had to do it because he could. And so just being over there to support her and, to try to do stuff to help take her mind off of it, sit with him sometimes, while she run errands and different stuff like that. But, I just seeing her, man, I commend her, but I can just remember looking at her sometimes and she be looking so drained because it's so much. It's 24/7 care. Because he can't do nothing but move his head. You know what I mean? So it just seeing her, it just, to me, it's people who do it. I have a newfound respect for. Like, honestly,
you put yourself to the side, and you had talked about you can't be selfish. You have to you got to put yourself to the side and just. If I can do it for them, I'm gonna do it. Just do it. It's got to be done. Just do it.
Right.
Just do it. Go. Do it. You know what I mean?
It is. It's crazy.
I remember that phone ring all the time because I was a caregiver for my mother. My father was as well, my sister. We all took care of my mother. But for my uncles and cousin, I just remember that anytime the phone rang, I was always on the edge, was wondering, was it a bad call or different things. But sometimes just having to go in the middle of the night and take care of things, or like you said, I've also was an executive estate, having to take care of the affairs, pay bills. I think people just look at caregiving as physical, but sometimes it's financial, taking care of the bills or their affairs or buying them clothes or making sure they get to each appointment.
Take them to appointments,
making sure they have transportation, making sure they have their medicine.
That's another thing.
I also look at it as advocating you know,
Absolutely.
being an advocate for them, you know, because sometimes they're not thinking what's best for them, or they might not be able to read something or understand what's going on with their self medically. So being their advocate or being their cheerleader, just making sure that they have everything that they need. I think, you know, I think a lot of times, I will say this, when you're actually doing, you don't really see the toll it takes on your body and your mind, because you're in the process of doing, you're in action. But then after my uncle died, I realized how exhausted I was. And how I was running on fumes, like, you know, working, going up there, doing this, doing this. But
look, we'd like to thank y'all for tuning in. Again, we have reached the end of our great podcast on caregiving. Listen, I know there's a lot of things that we experience and we go through in life, but caregiving is one of them things that's made for a special type of person. It's really an elite level of serving. And if you are a caregiver, I just want to give a shout out to you. I want to tell you that I thank you. You are appreciated. Even when the people, those of us who don't, and not caregivers by nature, don't seem to recognize you, I want to recognize you with this podcast. So if you know a caregiver, please share this podcast with them. If you have comment, if you like to participate in one, please let me know and we'll have you on. So thank you for all you do. We'll see you next week. Peace.